Ooh.
All right, folks, we are live. We are not gonna say anything yet, but just to let you know, don't say dumb shit.
Yeah, okay. I like how we get the AP has called the presidential race for Joe Biden, whatever YouTube insert.
The AP is called the race for pick.
All right, welcome everyone. We will thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be giving it a few more seconds, while hopefully the quad actually pings everyone so that they can actually see this.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I'll go ping my party.
I already pinged.
Mm-hmm. Demcord is already lighting up.
So, wonderful weather we're having.
Everything's either too cold or too hot.
That's incorrect. It could also be not hot enough or not cold enough.
It was raining today.
There's many possibilities for temperature. That's true.
No, only those four.
Listen, man, I'm the centrist here. You don't get to make those comparisons.
Okay, listen here, kid. I've been the enlightened centrist. Okay. Don't come into my house and tell me who the centrist is. Okay.
One of us runs the centrist party.
It's more of a catch-all party, really.
There are two types of centrism: radical centrism and catch-all centrism. Which one am I?
The loser centrist.
PGF
Got
just
him.
told me to read these messages out loud. And I'm kind of scared. Melp, shout out to your mom.
Melp is not even listening to this. Like, he's in Mexico, I think. That's not a joke, by the way. I think he's actually in Mexico.
Breaking news, everybody. I would like to announce that PGF has declared victory. Means nothing.
Well deserved, to be honest.
Means nothing, but, he declared it, so.
May I congratulate him on his ascension to governor.
All right, folks. As it seems that the entire quad decided to be offline on election night.
Can ping and cannon chat.
Mushy moment.
Oh, I need a hurricane. It's fine.
We have
can just get Astro to right now, so don't worry about it.
We have about 30 people now, so we can start. Welcome, everyone, to the November 2020 state election results show.
Ooh.
I am Hurricane, the distant cousin of Governor Hurricane, who is running for election and therefore cannot be here for obvious conflicts of interest. And joining me is my co-host, APG.
Hello. Nice to meet you all again.
And a representative from each of our three parties. First off, let's just let all the party leaders introduce themselves in the order we agreed on earlier.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Vidney. I am the chair of the Civics People's Party and also a associate justice, but that's neither here nor there, and that doesn't count. Don't worry about it.
I guess I can go. I am in the DNC as an advisor. I provide a lot of the election advisement for the Democratic Party this election cycle. I'm also the second representative from Chesapeake in the House.
And your name
And
is?
what is your
Yeah,
name?
are we supposed to play a guessing game here?
If you won the Jeopardy game that I just created, my name is Altoids. The answer was Altoids.
Yeah, my name is
Thank
AC Helicopter. I'm the GOP chief whip, and I'm a representative in the House.
Thank you. That being said, how this is going to work is that, for some reason, every county in America seems to have bought voting machines that tell you the results for each election, each assembly race as it comes in. But for some reason, they forgot to program it for the governorship, so the governorship's going to have to be manually counted by one very frail old lady. She's counting all 100 million votes. So the governorship results might be coming in a bit later.
I'm getting reports that the name of this software is Demonian? I can't tell.
ABC News cannot confirm nor deny this report. That being said, since we already have quite a lot of people, we can start by going into Atlantic. Let's first go to the polls and see what they say. Party leaders, this is the last poll on day 5 that came out of Atlantic. We have a neck-and-neck race between It's Zippy 23 for the Democrats and My House is on Fire for the Civics. And in the Assembly, you have a similar dead heat, both 50-50. Let's go with expectations. What do you expect to see in Atlantic party leaders?
Well, because the pollsters are completely within the pocket of the DNC, I expect that My House on Fire is going to completely thrash Zippy this time around. As for the Assembly, kind of more expected that it's going to be a bit of a closer race, but I still do believe that the Civics People's Party, the People's Party of the United States, will be able to pull it out once again.
All right. Well, listen. Everyone in the Democratic Party is pro Zippy. We all love him. We all have been rooting for him for many election cycles. And you know, I think it's a bit rude to assert that he has no chance here. I really do think he can win this and win the Assembly. A Democratic trifecta in AC is possible, I think, here. Especially, I think we have a very good chance of getting the Assembly. And yeah, at the very least, making sure that any civic governor has to handle having a blue Assembly.
Democrats' chances are so good that they're going to get a trifecta in a place with only a bicameral system.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's get the Republican take on Atlantic.
Zippy is going to lose. There you go. My House on Fire will win once again because of the fine campaigning of the Atlantic Republican Party, who have accounted for much of the civic advantage in this election. So the civics will win because the Republicans are just so fantastic.
I'm starting to really reconsider this whole
Thank you.
coalition thing.
Now, of course, Atlantic's a bit of a special race because, of course, Atlantic has always been a bit of a three-party state. You've always had Republican civics and Democrats represented, although the Republicans bowed out in favor of their civic coalition partners this time. So let's see whether that gamble has paid off. We're going to now get Atlantic results from the Assembly, although governor results will trickle in, and we don't expect to get those until towards the end of the show. So let's see, in Atlantic, right now, before going into this election, we've got 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 civics. So there's a coalition majority, and to some extent, it's been able to help Governor House implement his agenda, although it lost the speakership to the minority party by some magical feat of wizardry. So now let's see whether whoever is governor next in Atlantic can expect to be working with a Democratic or a civic majority. And the Atlantic Democratic Socialists have won 4 seats to the civics 3. The Democrats are on 53% of the vote, while the civics are on 47%. This means that whoever controls the next government will probably be expecting to work again with current Speaker PGF and a Democratic majority in the Assembly. Let's go into the map first. As you can see from this map, there's quite a lot of blue, there's quite a lot of purple as well, and there seems to be a pretty big regional split. APG, what's your take?
Yeah, I think this is definitely an interesting result, especially considering the dead heat that both Zippy and Fire seem to be in going into the last day. The question is can the Democrats transition this into a pickup in the governorship, or is this just an example of people splitting their ballot between a Democratic Assembly and perhaps a civics governor? We'll have to see as the night progresses.
Thank you. And as you can see, we've already got some early results coming in from every single district, even though, yes, for some reason, every polling place has closed at the same time today, in spite of time zones. So as you can see, as of right now, this is very, very early results. Things could change dramatically as we get in more results and as we get results in faster as the night progresses. As you can see right now, the civics have a very narrow lead in the 1st district of Atlantic, while Zippy seems to have a pretty comfortable lead in New York in the 2nd district. And in the 3rd district, with 15% in, House seems to have a pretty steady lead at 62%. Meanwhile, in Sierra, you've got Democrats leading in the 1st, 2nd, and 4th districts, although in the 3rd district, as of right now, it is Pick and the Republicans who are leading. Although all of these results in Sierra are fairly narrow, except of course for the one in the 1 district that doesn't matter, the 4th, where Governor Hurricane leads with 73% of the vote. Let's now go to Chesapeake. Keep an eye on the bar at the right because governor results will continuously update throughout the night. Now, in Chesapeake, the last poll had the Democratic Labor Party on the cusp of a majority at 50%, while the Civics and Republicans are at 20 and 30% respectively. Party leaders, what are your expectations in Chesapeake?
I believe it's first off. I'd like to make sure that you pronounce it correctly. It's the Chesapeake.
Thank you.
No, it's not. Moving on.
Secondly, Chesapeake was kind of a dark horse for the coalition. It's very sad to see that we kind of dropped the ball in Atlantic. However, I do believe that the Civic Republican coalition is going to be able to pull out a win in Chesapeake, although it is once again very narrow in that regard.
The Democratic opinion, I think, is, and I'm saying this especially as someone who closely directed the election proceeding, well, the campaign in the Chesapeake, in the Chesapeake. I really think that we have a very, very good chance of holding the assembly here. The Democratic government under Governor CDOC has been absolutely fantastic, passing a large swath of its platform, while the opposition has been very inactive. And that was all done under this minority government we've been maintaining since August. So yeah, I really do think we're going to win this. This all comes down to whether the Chesapeake people believe that functional government is good government or not.
Yeah, I am very optimistic about the coalition's chances of eking out a narrow majority in Chesapeake. I think Speaker Mel just fantastic, and that he will carry the day. His hard campaign will carry the day in Chesapeake for the Republicans and the Civic coalition.
All right. Thank you, party leaders. Of course, entering this election in Chesapeake, we have 2 Civics and 2 Republicans, while the Democratic plurality has 3 seats, although they also have the governorship. So going into this election will determine whether Governor Sidakra will be able to implement his administration's agenda with a cooperative majority, or with the coalition, who might question some of his priorities, and which might make some issues such as budgeting difficult. So now let's see in Chesapeake. In Chesapeake, the state without a definite article in the name, what the results are in the assembly. And in the assembly, the Democratic Labor Party, apologies, the graphic says Democratic Socialist, that is the name of the Atlantic Party, are on 43% of the vote, which is a significant underperformance from the day 5 exit poll, and which that means that the Democratic Labor Party will be entering this term with 3 seats, while the Civics on 24% have 2 seats, and the Republicans on 32% also have 2 seats, which means there's no change at all in the Chesapeake Assembly, and this means that Chesapeake's long tradition of divided government will continue for another term. Now let's quickly go to Dixie. Oh, apologies. First, here's the map and ATG analysis. What's your analysis of Chesapeake results?
Yeah, so as you said, certainly one of the important is nothing really changed as a result of the election. Each party controls exactly what they had going in. However, perhaps the most important thing, at least that I see, is that the Democratic Labor Party has to work on their messaging. Apparently, they percent coming in the last home. It turns out they, as you said, far underperformed that. Is that a result of their results governing? Is that an impact of the governor? Is that an impact of the party leadership at the state level? That's just something that they're really going to have to examine going into federal elections, certainly, and next states to see if they can actually recover.
Thank you. And now let's go to the state that, of course, as I will remind you every single time we have this election show, had the Confederate flag as their state flag until about a year ago. So let's go to Dixie. And in Dixie, let's look over the polls first. This is a bit complicated because, remember, Dixie, of course, has 2 of its seats elected by first past the post and only 5 seats on the list. As you can see, both races in using the first past the post system are very close. You have Speaker Stormstopper at 48% against rising Republican leader Seldom 237, while in the other race, former representative and current assemblyman Paul 2214 is neck and neck with Attorney General It's Not Brandon of the Republicans, while the assembly list seems to be perfectly split 4 ways, with each party having about a third of the vote. Let's see whether this can keep up. Party leaders, your expectations going into Dixie. Will Governor Whitey have a majority to work with?
Oh, right, I'm first. Yeah, I mean, it seems very likely, especially considering just simply doing the math. The Republicans and Civics have about a 66% total percentage in the assembly list at the moment, which is going to grant them at least 3 seats. If I did that math correctly, I might have done that incorrectly, but who knows? Which means all they have to do is pick up one of the actual districts, and they will have that majority they need. There is a possibility of him picking up 5 seats and having a full. Well, I don't want to say a full majority because it's 2 parties, but it will be a coalition supermajority in the assembly. And then I might also be completely wrong, and the Democrats may sweep us here. Who knows?
Thank you. Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to these first past the post seats. The reality of things is that having these seats means that the detente race is in some respects not as competitive. It's kind of a reality that the Democrat Party has to share some seats with the Civics and GOP, and that's just how the math works out here. So yeah, it really depends on these first past the post seats. I do think that both candidates can win their seats. I do think that's very much possible. It just comes down to what Dixians think is right. I think we can win this, but yeah.
Thank you. Republicans.
So this is a perfect example of how the polls are rigged. We are going to win. We are going to win both of the first past the post seats, and then there will be a coalition supermajority in thanks to the assembly list, because it's simply a truth that the people love their governor, and that the Republicans and the Civics are going to sweep this night in Dixie.
Of course, while I've heard some laughter, this is not mathematically impossible. Of course, if the Republicans stand up winning both first past the post seats, and the Democrats come in third by perhaps half a point in the assembly list, that would result in 6 coalition seats and 1 Democratic seat. Conversely, if the Democrats win both first past the post seats and keep 2 seats on their assembly list, that would net them 4 seats. So as you can see, because of this strict hybrid system that Dixie has, it's really anyone's game. So now let's look at the actual results. First, let's go to the first past the post districts. In the first district, Seldom 237 has decisively won this district, which consists of Florida, Georgia, and the place next to them, whose name I forgot, with 57% of the vote to Speaker Stormstopper's 43. Meanwhile, in the second district, which is Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Alabama, or is it Mississippi? One of the two.
They don't matter.
Thank you. They're both the worst anyways. The Democrats, Alpha 2214 has narrowly edged out Attorney General It's not Brandon to win this seat. So now we're one Democrat seat and one Republican seat. So really, it's the list that's going to matter. But first, let's look at the maps. APG, what do you make of these maps?
Oh, no, they're not. They're not. So, I mean, obviously, a total disappointment here for the Dems, I think, as far as the first district is concerned. Stormstopper was a former governor of Dixie, if memory serves correctly, and for the former governor of their home state to be beaten sort of this badly by their ideological challenger has to be a disappointment to the Dems. I'm happy to see, as a former representative of Texas, that Texas still has some blue in it. That's good to hear. But you know, like you said, it's all going to come down to the list seats, and you know, seeing the results tonight. You know, do the Democrats think they have a chance for a pickup? You know, I think seeing how Alpal sort of narrowly eked out a win and Stormstopper was stomped on, you know, I think it's going to be a hard sell for a left wing win here in Dixie.
Thank you. And I'm now finally getting reports that all the rigging is now complete, and we are now getting the list results in Dixie. And in Dixie, actually, in the list to popular vote, the Civics are actually leading at 34%, followed by the Democrats at 33.7%, and the Republicans at 32%. Because of the wonkiness of a list with only 5 seats, this means that the Democrats and the Civics both get 2 seats, and the Republicans only get 1. Let's look at the map first. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of all 3 parties represented here. APG, thoughts on this map?
What? That's a great question. Like I said, you know, Dems were really hoping to pull out a win here tonight, and based off of the results from the first past the post seats, you know, that was probably not going to happen. I guess I will say congratulations to the sort of right wing coalition. If memory serves, this has been the first time, at least that I remember, that you will have a united government as far as the right wing is concerned, with the exception of this current term. Yeah, pretty much exactly what we expected based off of the first past the post seats. And again, congratulations to the Civics and the GOP.
Yeah, now everyone already probably did the math in their heads, but just in case, here are the standings. The Democrats have a plurality, but the coalition, with 2 seats for each of the member parties, now has a majority, which means that now, for the first time in ages, maybe ever, there is a right-wing trifecta in Dixie. And before we go on to our next state, Lincoln, let's take a look again at the governor results. We're getting we've already gotten about 2/3 of the results in for basically every district except Sierra's first, where the province of Arizona seems to be taking forever to count its votes.
What about
in a completely unexpected twist of fate. As you can see in Atlantic right now, with about 3/4 of the vote counted, House continues to enjoy a very comfortable lead in the 3rd district, which includes Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and is the largest district, although Zippy maintains a tight lead in the 2nd district in New York. Meanwhile, in the 1st district in New England, House still has a narrow lead at 53%. So as it is right now, I believe House is winning, although we have 1/4 of the votes to count, and it's not over until every vote is counted. let's go first, before we get reactions, let's go first to Lincoln. Lincoln polls, as you can see here, polls aren't very helpful. Democrats and civics are both on 50. As you can remember, Lincoln has been very active in the past term with a lot of disputes between the Democratic minority and Governor Nimitz over issues such as the Supreme Court. The results in Lincoln will decide whether Governor Nimitz will continue to have a willing majority for his policies, or whether he will have to cohabitate with a Democratic majority. Party leaders, expectations going into Lincoln.
This is where I drop the big black pill. I think we're going to lose. I genuinely do think. I hate to say it. I think the Democrats are going to edge this one out, and I think it's going to be very sad. Sad with an exclamation point as well. It's that bad. Also, I've been asked by Pick to say to the entirety of the country, stop the count.
Is Pick aware that he would lose by about 20 points if we stop the count right about now?
I think he means...
Pick didn't say that, so it's fine. I was making a meme.
I'm sure he's quite aware.
Democrats.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, so Nasval, the Speaker of the House, recently was promoted over to become the state chair of Lincoln and has been running the campaign over there. And I will say he has done a fantastic job. We didn't really expect there to be any serious chance at the start of this election to get this assembly, but now it's becoming. I mean, you heard the civics representative. It's very likely that we're going to win this, and that's really good. I'm really happy for him, and I'm really happy for Lincoln.
Thank you. Republicans, thoughts on this election in which you clearly have a massive stake?
We have a huge stake in this election. We care very deeply about it, and we care very deeply about it, and we're deeply upset that the civics look like they're going to lose the majority here. That is something that is deeply affecting us, and it is something on which we campaign very heavily in the state, that we are known to care very much about Lincoln.
I'm starting to think you don't like this.
Oh.
Thank you, party leaders. And before we go into Lincoln results, I just remembered I forgot to also describe a bit of what's happening in Sierra. About half the vote has been counted in Sierra so far, although Arizona is taking its sweet time. California and the Pacific Northwest are both reporting about 3/4 of the vote, and they both show pretty healthy leads for the Democrats. So for incumbent Governor Hurricane and Lieutenant Governor Gregor DeBeggar, against the impressive challenge that is actually by Representative Pick 09 and long-standing Representative Astro, which actually gained quite a few points in the polls over the campaign, although it seems that so far they seem to be falling short in the 2nd and 3rd districts. The 4th district seems to have counted very quickly. It's about 93% in, and the Democrats are on 66% of the votes in Alaska and Hawaii. We are now going into Lincoln results. So in Lincoln, the Democrats are on 54.1% of the votes, and the Civics are on 45.9%. This means the Democrats net 4 seats, and the Civics net 3 seats. Let's look at the map now. Here's the map. You see quite a lot of blue in the upper Midwest. And APG, what's your analysis?
This is probably one of the more important wins for the Democrats, perhaps tonight. I have never seen any representative in this party be so openly aggressive towards a governor than they have been towards Nimitz. But then again, Nimitz hasn't exactly been a saint himself. But to be able to have the majority to potentially stop some of the governor's policies is definitely something that they were looking for tonight. They got it. And that's probably going to be the big win of the night for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. And if I recall correctly, last term, incumbent Governor Cuba in the last gubernatorial election actually lost all 4 districts of Lincoln. And you can see here, at least 3 of the districts seem either to have gone Democratic or very close, the first, second, and third. You see quite a lot of blue throughout Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Do you think this trend means something here?
That's a good question. I think it means that they certainly learned their lesson from last state election, and decided to sort of rebrand their messaging. Potentially focus more on the negative qualities of the governor, perhaps, as opposed to their actual sort of campaign. Whatever it is that they did, it seemed to have worked. So, as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think if the Dems just keep doing exactly what they're doing for the next federal and state election, they've probably got a pretty good shot of winning.
Thank you. That being said, now let's go into first. As you can see, the governor results seem to have come in pretty quickly in all the districts. We're still waiting on Arizona, although we expect to get Arizona at the same time as the Sierra legislature. So let's go right there right now. So in Sierra, Governor Hurricane is on 53% of the vote, and Pico 9 is on 47%. This seems to be, the Democrats seem to be in the lead, although this is quite a bit narrower than the day zero polls, where Governor Hurricane enjoyed 61% to Pico 9's 39%. So there's been quite a big swing in this campaign, although we'll see if this momentum in the polls was real or whether essentially whether it actually translated into the actual results. Meanwhile, in the assembly, the Democrats, who also began at a massive 20-point margin, have now been down to only a 4-point lead at 52-48. So that's quite a big cry away from the nearing supermajority territory that they were sat at on day zero. Party leaders, what are your expectations in Sierra?
Dem sweep.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. For starters, I'd like to chastise the ABC News place. What the hell? The ABC News graphics designers for saying Republican when Pick is always and will be a CPP member. I don't know what you're talking about.
Member. The Communist Party of China.
His next party. That's his next party. Shush.
Thank you.
But he is always and will be a CPP member. So just a bit of chastisement there. Definitely wasn't anything weird happening in between the election. Pick has a better chance, although looking at the current standings and all of the provinces, not as great of a chance as he'd probably like. I was still taking it, but unfortunately, the Astro Posting, also known as the AP, has called this election for Hurricane of Flies, so that's pretty sad to hear.
Thank you. Democrats.
So yeah, I mean, it does seem like the Chinese Communist Party is not going to take control of the state of Sierra. It was kind of a long shot, considering that China is on the other side of the ocean and in general not very well aligned with American values. So I really do believe that Hurricane is going to win this, and also secure the very specific assembly configuration that he fought for so hard in this campaign cycle.
Thank you. Republicans. This,
Okay.
of course, Republicans. If I recall correctly, Sierra has been very competitive on the assembly stage. It's changed control quite a lot of times over the past 2 years. Although on the gubernatorial level, the last Republican governor was Arnie. Will Pick break the Democratic streak in Sierra for the governor's mansion?
No. But upon his loss, there will be great anguish throughout the halls of power in the Republican Party. We will fall to our knees and bash our hands against the floor like it's the death of Kim Il-sung. This will be one of the greatest disasters in the history of perhaps the party. And I would also like to say that the that the Attorney General has just handed down a subpoena against Pico 9 to try him for against the Espionage Act for being a spy for the Chinese Communist Party. That is all I have to say.
Thank you. Now, of course, both candidates presented very different visions for the election. Pico 9 campaigned on reversing a lot of the very expensive projects that former Governor 0101 had implemented, such as white genocide, while incumbent Governor Hurricane has promised to, and I quote, liquidate the landlord class. So let's see which vision of Sierra has triumphed. Let's first look at the Assembly. In the Assembly, to perhaps no one's surprise, Democrats are on 54%, while the Republicans are on 46%. This means that Democrats will be in control of the State House in Sierra for the third time in a row, which I believe is a record when it comes to Sierra, which has usually had pretty competitive elections between the two major parties. Now let's quickly look at the map. And on the map, you can see here, the coast is very blue, the interior is very red. APG, your analysis.
What's there to analyze? This has been pretty consistent for as long as I've been around in the political scene. The question is will this give Governor Hurricane the mandate to continue to govern? Looks like that's going to be the case based off of the results we see here on the right. So again, not a really surprising result in Sierra tonight. It's seems like the Republicans have tried time and time again to flip the Assembly red, and each time I've seen it happen, it just has not worked. So who knows? Maybe fourth time's a charm. I think you guys really have this in the bag in about 20 years.
Thank you. That being said, I believe now we can go back to the first race that we talked about at the very start of this event, which is, of course, the Atlanta gubernatorial race. And now we have about 99% of the vote in all three districts. And with that, ABC News can project that My House on Fire has been re-elected as the governor of Atlantic with 54% of the vote to Zippy's 46.0. So that roughly translates to 1 million margin in the popular vote, although it is worth noting that this represents a 6-point decrease in the civic vote for governor from the last election when House was against then socialist governor, unorthodox ambassador. So as you can see from the map here, you've got quite a lot of people on the map in all three districts. APG, what's your analysis here?
Certainly a crushing blow for the Dems here tonight in the Atlantic. I think they were really hoping that they could pull one out of their bag of tricks, but it just didn't end up materializing. However, that being said, I think there's certainly something to be said about the effort here to attempt to flip the governor's mansion. But My House is on Fire is literally on fire. I think there's definitely an argument to be made that he's one of the most active governors in the country. It was going to be very, very hard to unseat him to begin with, but certainly something has to be said, commending the attempt, at the very least, to unseat the governor.
Yeah, thank you, APG. And as you can see from this map, the people of Vermont must be very disappointed tonight, seeing as every county in Vermont seems to have voted for the losing candidate for the Democrats. So now comes the final result. And apologies, before we go there, let's first look at a comparison between the Assembly and the governor results. As you can see, the Assembly returned a Democratic verdict, while the governor's result clearly returned a very different one. As you can see here, what really made the difference seems to have been Connecticut, Rhode Island, actually seems to have most of the coast of New England, as well as upstate New York. APG, what do you think of this very divided verdict in Atlantic tonight?
That's a great question. I guess if you want me to be as blunt as possible, it means that members of Atlantic were disappointed with the representation at the legislative level, but were fine with the performance of the governor, which certainly seems a little interesting considering the fact that there was a split ideologically. However, I think that is a testament to, again, how just active um, Fire is in his home state. I think if you would have seen a governor who really didn't care, the Democrats would have definitely picked up both the assembly and the governorship.
Thank you. And with that, we are going now to our final race of the night in Sierra. And in Sierra, incumbent Governor Hurricane and Lieutenant Governor Gregor the Beggar have won 58.4% of the vote to 41.6% for Pico 9 and Astro, which means that Governor Hurricane has been reelected to a second term of classicide against the landlord class. Which I will note, as an impartial third-party observer, is unlike the white people that Governor Zero tried to kill, not a protected class under the Civil Rights Act. That being said, let's look at the map. As you can see here, the map is quite blue. It is, in fact, it is much bluer, if I recall correctly, than the map from the last election, where, of course, a third-party candidate won about 10% of the vote and captured several counties in Arizona and New Mexico. APG, what's your analysis here?
I mean, what's there to analyze? Hurricane has really been one of the most famous figures of the state, besides former president, former Governor Zero. So this is really no surprise to anybody who has paid even a little bit of attention to national or even state level politics. Congratulations to Governor Hurricane yet again, and let's see what he runs for next election, because he's going to be stuck with something.
Thank you, APG. One interesting thing to note on this map before we move on, the Democrats, Governor Hurricane, has won almost the entirety of Idaho and has lost Orange County, California. So clearly, the white supremacists in northern Idaho have a much greater appreciation for class warfare than the suburbanites of Greater Los Angeles. So
Orange
now
County
let's
is
look
not
at
Greater Los Angeles. I will fight you on that one.
I don't know where Orange County is, to be honest.
It's below Los Angeles.
Now let's look at the comparison of the results between the assembly and the governorship. Unlike in Atlantic, this seems to have been a pretty even verdict, with the same clusters of support for the governorship and the assembly race. Only the only differences are in Colorado and New Mexico, which are a bit less blue for the assembly. But otherwise, it seems pretty. This seems fairly even. APG, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Fair enough. Let's look at the standings, and then party leaders will go to you and ask what's your main takeaways from this entire election. In terms of standings, the Democrats are on 18 seats, which is one more than they won last election, which is a very modest gain. The Republicans have lost one seat compared to the 8 that they had the previous election, and the Civics have nominally gained one seat from the previous election results, although in practice this means that they have neither gained nor lost any seats, because of course independent Dixie candidate Cry Defiance from last election joined the Civics Party for this one. So at 18 for the Democrats, this means that the Democrats actually have a very knife-edge majority of all state house seats throughout the country. And now let's look at government control. I think the biggest winner tonight has been divided government, because 3 states now have a divided government. In Atlantic, you have a civic governor with a Democratic legislature, the same in Lincoln. While in Chesapeake, you have the opposite, with a Democratic governor with a coalition legislature. Only in Dixie and Sierra do you still have trifectas. So it seems to have been a very mixed verdict from the people tonight. Party leaders, what is your take on all of this?
The first thing I'd like to say is, despite getting trounced, Pick actually did better than John H. Cox, Republican nominee for the 2018 California gubernatorial election, which is pretty pog. So other than that, we won our governor race, so that works. As for legislators, it sucks that we lost Lincoln and Atlantic, but we will definitely win them back next time, along with the Lincoln governor race, hopefully.
Thank you. Democrats.
Oh, well, all right. So, I mean, yeah, I am very proud for Governor Hurricane. I wish he could be here tonight to gloat in his glory, yet again winning his governor seat. I'm really disappointed in Chesapeake. I feel like we could have done a lot better. Lincoln was very impressive. In fact, I would like to read off a little statement I was sent in by the state chair for Lincoln, Nasbol, if you don't mind. She writes, as a state chair of the Lincoln Democrats, I am elated and excited to see our victory unfold. This should be a beacon to the entire country that Lincoln is soon to be on track to passing bold, diverse, and aggressive Democratic policies. However, as much as I am excited about this result, I understand that the road ahead still will require a united and aggressive state party able to produce legislation improving the lives of the everyday Lincolnite while combating the corrosive influence of the NIPS and the civics in this state's very ideals and people. So that was a thing. Yeah, that's my statement.
Before the GOP continues, Nimitz actually has a statement of response. It reads one word: bet.
Thank you. Republicans, what's your take on all of this?
So this has been a rather inconclusive night. We've technically lost a seat, but that was mostly because we weren't running in several states in which we held assembly seats before, and we're very happy with how the Dixie results shaped up for a coalition majority for the Republican Governor Whitey, and we're fairly happy with the maintaining the Chesapeake coalition majority, and we are utterly just anguished with Pick's loss. There have been chairs are getting flipped, tables are getting thrown. It's a disaster.
Thank you. APG, do you have any final analysis about the nationwide results?
Yeah. If this state election has showed one thing, it showed that, boy oh boy, do Americans love to complain about their government and yet do nothing to fix it, because clearly a majority of the states have voted, as you said, for divided governments, for gridlock. So, if the American people are going to sit here and talk about how much they hate that their governments don't do anything, I'd recommend that they look in the mirror next time they decide who they're going to vote for, and really figure out if they want to change that or if they just want to keep complaining.
Thank you. And with that, this now concludes our election show for the November 2020 state election. Thank you to IC, Ibni, and Altoids for joining us, and for APG and to APG for providing excellent commentary on the results as they're coming in. Thank you all for watching, and we will hopefully see you whenever the next presidential election is TBD.
Zippy
Thank you, everyone.
PGF would have fucking won that. Zippy should have won. God damn it. Election was rigged, everyone. Election was rigged.
Blame the DNC that you're
It
in.
was rigged.
Blame the DNC that you're in.
Count the votes.
If there's any takeaway from the results tonight, is that all three parties are accusing the elections of being rigged.
Count the votes.
So it remains to be determined who, in fact, has rigged the election against all three parties. And on that note, good night, America.
It was the fucking.
Good